Hey YouTube, I hadn't done a video in a little bit and some of my subs were getting a little antsy, sending me messages asking me if I'm okay. I'm fine. I bought an old building I've been working on this winter to make as a shop. But what I wanted to show you today is I purchased a AmeriStar package unit, and I wanted to kind of give you a little quick video showing you some of the features of it. I've never seen one before, so I bought a pig and a poke. Okay, here is the AmeriStar package unit. It's a 2-ton, this particular one, which I believe the dimensions is about the same for most all of them. It has like most of the small 2-ton package units, it has a rotary compressor, and I looked, I can't tell who makes it or where it comes from. I'm sure it's probably Chinese. 8 horsepower condenser fan motor. Nice looking fan blade. Same top and everything like they use on the split systems. Got a nice grill. It's not quite punched out the same way as the split systems, whereas meaning that this is not rounded over. It's not as big either, but it's comparable to most economy package units, I would think. It does have these nice little handles on the doors that you remove. Some of the cheaper units don't have those, so I assume I got a blower over here. The heat kit will go in here. And there's, of course, our return. It does have coil surface on the back, so you can't cram it right up against something, which I usually like to do with the Aries units I used to install. I could put them up close and not have much of a duct cover. In this case, I'm probably going to have, probably an 18-inch duct cover anyway, in order to keep that end of the condenser open for airflow. So, the one thing I did notice, this unit seems to have basically 5/16, I guess 8mm screws, whereas your AmeriStar splits have the 7mm or 1/4-inch screws. There's a 7 and an 8mm socket. 8mm fits good. 7mm fits good. Of course, we can also do they're 5/16. So I'm going to grab a impact and pull some doors off, and we'll take a look at the inside. Okay, 3 screws gets me into the control box here. And let's see what we've got. We've got I guess that's probably the condenser fan capacitor, the compressor capacitor, transformer, of course contactor, defrost board, and probably the fan blower control board, since this is a package unit. Same gold-plated ground connector. Whoa. Everything's tied down good. They have these little wraps that are actually spot welded onto the metal to hold the wires back. There's an extra one down here, maybe for the heat kit, I don't know. I do have a heat kit for this. We'll unbox it, but I'm going to assume that the wires go right out through that hole down there and probably plug into here, I would imagine. So we'll take a look at that. Of course, we got the external high and low pressure port here. Not sure what this little door is here. This is more than likely, I noticed on the outdoor units, on the heat pumps, they have a ambient temperature sensor. So I'm going to guess that's going to be the ambient temperature sensor. But I'll go ahead and pull these doors off and we'll look at that too. Okay, I took off the left-hand door and that little cover on the right-hand side. There is a thermistor back in here going over to the defrost board. Not sure, I guess you could clamp on to the liquid line if you was looking for subcooling by taking those out, I don't know. Of course, on this door, all you really do is see the thermistor for the defrost. And I guess truly both of this one and this one would be your no, I guess it's this one, and the one right around here would be your suction lines, depending on which mode you were in. So I guess you could clip a temperature sensor on here if you were checking AC and get your superheat. So that's what's in that door. What I'll do next is pull the blower door off. I need to put the heat kit in anyway. We'll go ahead and look at that heat kit, see what's in the box. Okay, the door comes off with several screws. It's a very thick, heavy door. It's got real thick insulation, which I guess is a good thing since this thing will be spending its life outdoors. Okay, there's your capacitor for your blower motor. Of course, just I don't know what brand that is. I can't say the first name. Welling is the second name, which happens to be the same name that was on the condenser fan motor. So, of course, the heat kit will go in here. I haven't taken it out yet, but I got to looking at it, and they've got it packed really, really well. Looks like a little inside of a casket. This is a 8 kW, 8 kW heater. Even on the 8 kWs, they automatically put a breaker with them. I'm assuming since it's a economy unit, some codes probably somewhere in the world require a breaker, so it's easier to make one heat kit rather than make two. I don't know, cheaper maybe. Looks like it has little relays for sequencers. Can't tell. Might be able to see that on the screen better, but 25 amp resistive relays. So there's the cord. This part goes in the control panel. I assume all this wire will unroll and go out through here. I need to get the instructions and look at this, but it appears obvious that this piece has to come off at least. Nice thumb screws. I'm not sure. There's no knockout, so I wouldn't think you could put this back on unless the insulation just the wire folds back under the insulation there. That's a possibility. So I'll get the instructions out here, stick this heat kit in, and get another shot. Okay, I put the heating elements in and unrolled that long shielded or sheathed cord. They give you a place to wrap it right up here, and then of course you can wrap it with the other wire here, and then they just show it coming down and going through this plate. It does push to the side no problem, so you can actually reinstall this plate. I'll probably put a wire tie to tie this up to these other wires that's going through the control panel. But I mean, it wouldn't be in the way here, but might as well get it up. One thing I just noticed when I was putting these thumb screws back in, they've got the drain pan. It's got a section that extends out here under the blower housing and runs back into the drain pan. I guess for any sweating that you might have on the blower housing, or I guess if it, pulled some condensate into the blower housing and slung it around, it would probably weep out down here at the bottom and go back instead of just making the inside of the blower housing wet. So that's a nice little touch. I'm going to see where this mounts. I'm sure it's right down below the existing control panel, and get it screwed in. On the, looks like the 24 through 36,000 BTU sizes, 2, 2.5, and 3 ton sizes, the heater controls actually screw down to the bottom of the unit. Apparently the 42, 48, and 60s are taller, so it gives them more room right here to put it underneath the control panel. So at any rate, it fits good. Plenty of wire. Little Molex connector was the same on both sides, so that worked out good. So you've got a breaker here for your heat, and of course this is where they show you hooking up the power for the compressor and the blower and the condenser fan, everything else, the heat pump part. You have knockouts here and here, and of course looks like a thermostat knockout here. So in most cases like this, I usually try to run one larger conduit and get all my power conductors in it for both the heat and the heat pump from the disconnect or disconnects, depending on what it has. This is going on a mobile home that actually has a Goodman, one of the old brown Goodman package units there now, and it has a I guess it's about like a 100 amp sub panel mounted on the outside that has currently has a 60 and a 25 or a 30 double pole in it. So I'll just be able to size the breakers appropriately in that outdoor disconnect and run me one conduit from it over to the unit and pull all of my wires through it. But they're a little bit confused on what size screws they're using. The everything on the outside is the larger 8mm or 5/16 screws, but when you get inside over here on the heat panels and whatnot, you've got the 7mm or 1/4 inch screws. So I guess it's just whoever happens to be putting it together, what screws they have on their bench. I don't know why they would change back and forth like that. A little bit aggravating, but all the manufacturers seem to be doing that now. I'm going to put this schematic on that came with the heat kit on the inside of the door. And of course it's too big, it'll cover up some of your pressure chart up here. But they've got 4 different configurations here. Of course, we are going to be in between the 7.5 and the 10 kW since we're a 8 kW, but what I'm going to do is just cut out this little corner of it and stick it on in here, because none of these other stuff will mean anything to us and we won't have to cover anything up. I checked off the 7.5K because that was the closest to being right, but you got a pretty nice schematic up here for the rest of it. Your flash codes, things like that. So I'll button this puppy up and I'll get a shot of it when I get it in next week.